Welcome back to another FPL video and podcast. This will be the transfer tips for Gameweek 28 and over the weekend. And we're only talking about the Saturday FA Cup games, by the way. We've had so much happen, particularly in the forward line, which will be discussed in terms of injury updates. And one key player for blank Gameweek 29 who is now suspended all the way until Gameweek 32. And I'll be talking about what we should do with these kind of template picks and differentials to buy, hold, sell, and skip. That also includes managers from time to time. And there is a section called the 1 week punt. But in this video, because of all that's happened, there will be 12 assets covered in this podcast. Smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. If you enjoy my content, I promise to get this to a tour of likes as always, and to keep on pushing towards new goals like 33,000 subscribers. Keep your eyes peeled for more UCL fantasy and FPL content over the weekend and going into next week as well. There is a lot of videos and live streams on the horizon, and you won't miss a single one by hitting that notification bell, and that is the best way to keep up to date. There is also my Discord server, FPL League, Spotify, Blue Sky, Twitter and Instagram, all in the description, and on screen you can see the most transferred in players at this point of the game week. Unfortunately, Jean-Philippe Mateta isn't looking too promising now for Gameweek 28. He was going to feature in the buy section of this video, but things have changed after the FA Cup. This may surprise you, but the first player to feature in today's video is Gabriel, the Arsenal centre-back. I'm not going to recommend many Arsenal players from now until the end of the season, unless Bukayo Saka returns in the next month or so. That would definitely be an option in that midfield. You've also got those defenders like Saliba and Gabriel, David Raya in goal, and Wanyeri as an 8th attacker, but everybody else can really do one, and I don't think they're worthwhile in FPL. I can find better value elsewhere. But from now until the end of the season, Arsenal will kind of tick all the boxes. They may blank in Gameweek 34, but can compensate for that with a double in Gameweek 33, facing Ipswich Town away and potentially Crystal Palace at home. And their fixtures beforehand are decent on paper, facing Man United away, Chelsea and Fulham at home, Everton away, and Brentford at home. So in blank Gameweek 29, it's not the best of fixtures against Chelsea, but the Gunners boast a great record against them. However, due to their problems in the forward line, that could put more pressure on the defence to keep clean sheets, because that's the best chance of winning games and maybe churning out a set-piece goal and grinding results, getting a 1-0 victory and maybe some 0-0 draws like they did against Nottingham Forest in Gameweek 27. But Gabriel has 3 goals, 2 assists, 20 shots inside the box, which is great for a centre-back, and 8 big chances, and that means over 100 FPL points. He got a bonus against Nottingham Forest, and whenever Arsenal keep clean sheets, Gabriel is always going to be right up there amongst the highest scorers of the match. So I think Gabriel is a great purchase. I sold him around double Gameweek 24 to buy Trent Alexander-Arnold, and ideally you'd have both of them in your FPL team. On Saturday night, Manchester City won 3-1 against Plymouth to reach the next round of the FA Cup, and they had 11 big chances, over 30 shots, and despite being 1-0 down, they put in a great response and they deserved to go through. And Erling Haaland himself got an assist, but he also missed 3 big chances, and I do recognise it'll be very difficult to really afford him because he's so expensive, and I just think if you can find a way, I'd highly recommend Erling Haaland, especially with 2 of the best forwards over the next 4 game weeks being injured or suspended. So with the fact that City feature in blank Gameweek 29, I would argue Haaland is the best captain for that blank game week, and that is a major plus for free hitters there. But long term, after Leicester at home in Gameweek 30, you could argue that from Gameweek 31 until 38, Erling Haaland isn't essential, and he's also just very difficult to include in your team, and it makes your squad quite imbalanced overall, and that's the reason why I've gone without him since Gameweek 10 essentially. Now, you might be asking, is it worth selling Salah to Haaland? Long term, the answer is definitely no, but with Cole Palmer's recent form, that could be a switch in the template where people sell Palmer in Gameweek 29 and then go to Erling Haaland. That could work very well, but I wouldn't be selling Palmer against Leicester at home, so if you were to make that move, I would do it in Gameweek 29, where I think Haaland is a much better option on paper, facing Brighton compared to Palmer having a trip to the Emirates. But Erling Haaland scored his 20th Premier League goal of the season on Tuesday night against Tottenham Hotspur with 38 big chances and 162 FPL points. So it's not great by his standards, but he has 20 Premier League goals. Let's not forget that. And all his stats are incredible. The XG is 19.68. 25 key passes is decent, but 97 shots overall. In terms of anything stats related with the shots and the big chances, he's always going to be right up there. And I think Erling Haaland is a great buy if you can afford it. The FA Cup clash on Sunday afternoon between Newcastle and Brighton will give us much more clarity on Isak's situation. Eddie Howe provided an update on Friday afternoon, I believe, in the press conference, and he said the following: "I haven't seen him since the game. We don't think it is a long-term problem, but there was no risk taken on Wednesday, and there can't be at this stage of the season. We will see how he is today and have a discussion with him. If he is fit, he will play." But in regards to Isak, I think he'll be available in Gameweek 28 to face West Ham away. Then he blanks in 29, and afterwards Newcastle have excellent fixtures, which includes a double in Gameweek 32 against Man United at home and Crystal Palace at home. And with Mateta's injury, Mateus Cunha's suspension, I think Isak is worth holding on to if possible. And if you got the free hit, it's very easy, I think, to keep Isak in your squad. I would not be selling him right now, but as I'll show you towards the end of this video, he is the most transferred up player at this point of the game week. That might change though with Cunha's suspension and of course with Jean-Philippe Mateta. But Isak has 19 goals, 5 assists, an XG figure of 14.94, 167 FPL points, so he's right up there with the highest scoring forwards like Haaland, Cunha and Chris Wood, and all the stats across the board are terrific. 25 big chances, 10 big chance created and 36 key passes. I think Isak is by far the best Newcastle asset, and I'd be holding on to him, especially with the other situations we've got in the forward line. Fulham are second bottom of the fixture difficulty rating until Gameweek 32, and even just afterwards they face Chelsea at home, so it's pretty poor set of fixtures there for Fulham for the foreseeable future. Then they've got Southampton, and that could form part of a double in Gameweek 33, or at least in blank Gameweek 34, they will face the worst team in the Premier League. But Robinson remains one of the best defenders in this game, and he's got 10 fantasy assists for the season. No goals, but there is a reason why 25% of all FPL managers own Robinson in their setup. His expected assist figure is 3.16 and 91 FPL points. Despite the fixtures, I think it's only a matter of time before Robinson hits 100 plus FPL points, and there is a degree of overperformance, to be honest. 5 big chance created and 35 key passes, and like I mentioned with the XA figure, there is definitely a lot of chances that have been converted by the likes of Jimenez, for example, and these kind of jammy fantasy assists, you could say. But Robinson has been one of the best left backs in the Premier League this season, and his crossing ability is terrific. So I think he is worth holding on to if possible. And amongst all Fulham assets, if you were to keep one of them, I think Robinson is the one to keep. Over the last couple of months, I've highlighted Jean-Philippe Mateta as a purchase on many occasions. He has been one of the best strikers in the Premier League, especially in 2025. He is the joint top scorer in this competition alongside Mohamed Salah with 8 Premier League goals, but unfortunately he suffered a nasty injury after the Millwall goalkeeper made a horrendous challenge. He was sent off eventually, and Jean-Philippe Mateta was stretchered off and taken to hospital, and Glasner gave the following update about Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's at hospital now and has a serious ear injury, but fingers are crossed that it's not too serious. I think he'll definitely miss the Ipswich game on the 8th of March, but I still hope that he's available for the quarterfinals of the FA Cup at the end of March, so 4 weeks time. Of course, we all wish him the best. So that was quite conclusive there by Oliver Glasner, and maybe things change over the next few weeks and he's available sooner. But with the blanking Gameweek 29, missing Gameweek 28 and potentially some games afterwards like Southampton away, I think Jean-Philippe Mateta is a sell, and if he can be available for Gameweek 32, that would be perfect. You can buy him around that time. But I have to say, Crystal Palace, their fixtures don't look as great from that point onwards, despite the double in Gameweek 32. But Mateta's stats are incredible. There's no point really talking about it now because I've mentioned them in a lot of my recent podcasts, and he's injured for the next couple of matches. So unfortunately, Mateta is a sell. The second most transferred in player at this point of the game week is Mateus Cunha. Only Jean-Philippe Mateta has been transferred in by more FPL managers, but what is happening with the strikers right now? Because Cunha, despite scoring a great goal against Bournemouth to equalise at the time, he got sent off in the 120th minute for violent conduct. It was the right decision by the referee, and Cunha will not just miss Gameweek 28 and blank Gameweek 29, but the next 5 Premier League fixtures, because with violent conduct you get a 5-game ban by the FA. Maybe if, I don't know, Wolves somehow have great lawyers or can appeal something, maybe it gets reduced by 1 or 2, but honestly the chances of that are very slim, and I'm just being optimistic there. I think Cunha is going to be out for the next month basically, and missing Everton at home, Southampton away, West Ham at home, Ipswich Town away, and Tottenham Hotspur at home. Those are all excellent fixtures for an attacker, and I thought Cunha was the best forward in the game arguably for the next 5 game weeks, but now he is a sell. Decent stats overall, although they pale in comparison to Jean-Philippe Mateta, and even you could say compared to Chris Wood. But with Cunha, it's the bonus points. He gets a goal and then maximum bonus points, or at least 1 or 2 on every single occasion. He's got 33 for the season, but it means nothing at this point. I only bought him last week actually, and despite my success of buying Cunha around Game Week 10 earlier this season, buying him back recently has turned out to be a flop with that suspension. In the original list I created for this video, Raul Jimenez has been a sell, but maybe with the injury to Mateta and Cunha suspension, you could maybe keep Jimenez, especially with Fulham featuring in blank Game Week 29 against Tottenham at home. So the only real issue here is the rotation with Manice, who started in the last game and also scored against Wolves in that 2-1 win. But Jimenez is still the number 9 and the main striker for Fulham, so maybe selling him could be a mistake, especially with all the other problems we have to put out. But Jimenez has 9 goals, 3 assists, 74 shots, which is very impressive for a budget forward. He only cost 5.5 million after all, and over 100 FPL points. But Fulham's fixtures, as mentioned earlier, are pretty terrible, and in my opinion, most of their assets are worth selling, except for Robinson because of the assist threat, and Fulham can keep the odd clean sheet when you least expect them to. But I still think Jimenez is a sell, but I have to say I'm slowly leaning towards him being more of a hold, at least compared to how I felt a few days ago, but that's only because you've got so many other issues in the forward line. But you might be asking about the best replacements now for Cunha and Mateta, for example. Marmoush could be a great shout, and I think Chris Wood is definitely the standout right now, and we'll see if Isak is available. He does blank in 29, but he remains the best forward in FPL in terms of value and the consistency. He can also be captained against the likes of Salah and Cole Palmer, dare I say. So I think those are the forwards I mainly look at, not to mention Erling Haaland if you can afford it. So we're kind of down to the bare bones now in this forward line. Maybe Visser could be a decent short-term purchase, but Brentford's fixtures in the long term aren't too great, especially from Game Week 30 onwards. But Jimenez is still a sell, in my opinion. When I highlighted Anthony Robinson earlier in this video, I said Fulham are second bottom of the FDR until Game Week 32. The only team that has worse fixtures in that time frame is Aston Villa, who've only kept 3 clean sheets all season. Emi Martinez is one of the best goalkeepers in world football. He has made plenty of saves for the Villains this season with 73. I just don't think it's worth keeping any of them, except for Ollie Watkins, especially in a week like this, facing Brentford away. I will highlight him in future videos like the best wildcard team and whenever I show the best captaincy options, because he has a great record against his former club. But in terms of defenders and the goalkeeper, I think all of them are in a void. But Emi still has 11.8% ownership and his price is 5 million. He has 41 goals conceded so far, only 73 FPL points, which is the exact same, by the way, as the saves figure. But he blanks in 29, faces Brentford away in 28, and I think Aston Villa will concede there. Then it's Brighton away, Nottingham Forest at home, and Southampton away. So the only clean sheet I would see there is in Game Week 32, but sometimes football can be full of surprises, and maybe Villa keep 1 or 2 more clean sheets than I expect, and I look like a fool by the end of this 3-4 Game Week period. But I think there are a lot of reasons to sell these Aston Villa defenders and Martinez in goal, so I think you should really go to the likes of Sells, Pickford and David Raya. Dominic Szoboszlai has produced back-to-back double-digit returns with 24 points in the last 2 game weeks, and the last time he played Southampton, he got 10 points with maximum bonus and a goal. So I don't think he's necessarily a skip for this Southampton fixture, but just looking more long-term and bigger picture, I think there are better midfielders, even at a similar price, like Matoma, maybe Jared Bowen if you can stretch to him, not to mention these Bournemouth mids like Justin Kluivert, who is a much better option than Dominic Szoboszlai. But I have to say he's been very impressive recently, 5 goals and 7 assists in the Premier League. Even the XGI figure is very healthy at 10.52, and he has over 100 FPL points with a cheap price tag of 6.4 million, playing in the best team in the Premier League. But he blanks in 29, and I think having 2 Liverpool players is probably enough in Mohamed Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now the other stats are decent, 8 big chances, 8 big chance created, 39 key passes and 54 shots. They aren't too shabby at all, but I just don't think Szoboszlai is worth investment, especially if he needs somebody for Game Week 29 and beyond. Aston Villa fans must hate Ismaila Sarr because he has terrorised them all season with 28 points across both matches, and the other time he returned big was against Brighton, delivering 17 points on that occasion. Now, there's a lot to like in terms of fixtures. Ipswich Town at home coming up next, Southampton away in Gameweek 30, and a double in Gameweek 32. But Crystal Palace blank in 29, without Jean-Philippe Mateta for a lot of these matches. I think Palace could maybe struggle a little bit more than we would expect. And Eddie Nketiah could do a job in that position. You've also got Eze in the midfield, who I think offers more consistency than Ismaila Sarr, who has 6 goals and 4 assists this season, 11 big chance created, and 102 FPL points. But I bought him earlier this season and I was let down by him big time. I think he only got 1 return, which came against Leicester. So I don't think Ismaila Sarr will really provide what you're looking for. And there are those budget midfielders I mentioned before, like Justin Kluivert, who are much better options. I know you might be looking for a differential, so to speak, and I don't think Sarr is a terrible punt, but his consistency is certainly lacking, and I'd rather invest elsewhere with more consistent options. Marc Cucurella scored against Southampton and delivered 15 points, which was a mega return, but on 21 occasions in this Premier League season, he has blanked, and I just don't think he's worth investment right now. It is Leicester at home next, and I think Chelsea could keep a clean sheet there, but afterwards, in a lot of these games coming up, I just don't see Chelsea keeping teams out because their defence is very frail. This is the best time to play Arsenal, to be fair, and maybe Chelsea can get a decent result at the Emirates, but I just don't think beyond the next 2 game weeks, Cucurella will provide what you're looking for. He has 3 goals and 2 assists this season. 14 key passes is very low in my opinion, even for a left back, and 76 FPL points. His ownership is actually steadily rising. It's currently at 7.5%, and his price tag is 5.1 million, with 4 big chances, 3 big chance created, and an XA figure of 1.87. Only 4 shots on target as well, so I don't think his returns are necessarily sustainable. I would completely avoid all Chelsea defenders and Jorgensen in goal, but if you had to pick one Chelsea defender to kind of invest in that Blues defence, I think Cucurella is probably the best option. The forgotten man, Cody Gakpo, is this week's 1-week punt. With that fixture against Southampton at home, I think that makes a lot of sense, but I'd still keep an eye out for that lineup against PSG, because if Gakpo starts there, I'd be very concerned about his prospects of starting against Southampton, and in that case, I'd recommend someone like Nkunku as the best 1-week punt for 28, but Gakpo is certainly worth considering, and he'd be very highly ranked in my captaincy options if I had a good feeling about him starting against the Saints. He did start in the reverse fixture and didn't do much in that particular fixture, and ultimately it could be Diaz starting up front instead, or Diogo Jota, and they would be the kind of 1-week punt to really invest in. And Gakpo has been decent this season. He had a great stretch from Gameweek 14 to 24, and then it kind of went downhill quite quickly. I sold him in double Gameweek 24, in fact, to make room for Arne Slot at the time, but he has really dipped ever since and got the injury, but he's now back. He's made a few cameos off the bench against Man City and Newcastle, and I think he's ready to start against Southampton at home. But beyond that, the blank in 29, good fixtures afterwards, but with all that rotation with Jota and Diaz, I'd rather avoid that headache. So all of these Liverpool attackers to kind of complement Salah would only be a 1-week punt and nothing else in the long term. The FA Cup never fails to disappoint. We've had so much drama on and off the pitch. Hopefully Jean-Philippe Mateta recovers soon and we can see him back in action, because he has been one of the best forwards in FPL. I've been very consistent in the last couple of weeks saying that Isak, Wood, Cunha and Mateta are the best forwards in this game, but unfortunately 2 of them are now out of the equation, with Cunha getting suspended in the final minute of that game against Bournemouth, and Wolves crashed out on penalties in the FA Cup. On screen you can see the most transferred out players at this point of the game week. Isak is top, but expect the likes of Mateta and Cunha to rise up and potentially dwarf Isak in terms of transfers out very soon, and that's why FPL can be a very funny game. Try not to make early transfers if possible. I get it sometimes. You want to build up team value or not be priced out, but as the FA Cup just showed us, it can be very risky and lead you to taking -4 hits unnecessarily. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it insightful, then like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload or live stream. There are plenty headed your way for both FPL and UCL Fantasy. Follow me on X, Instagram and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM. There's also my Discord server, FPL League, Spotify, and my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Dylan RCM. I'll see you very soon for those deadline streams. There is one on Tuesday for UCL Fantasy and next Saturday for Fantasy Premier League.